to serve with heart and might, the nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Thank you very much.
Once again, welcome everyone to the BRF GABFEST2. Remember that we want you guys to share the experience that you're having here on all of your social media platforms. So if you take a picture, if something speaks to you and you want to tweet it, please feel free to do so. And don't forget to include the hashtag BRFGABFEST2. Now, before we move forward, I think it's very important that we take a look back at the very first BRF GABFEST that happened last year. Now, I was here personally, and I can tell you for a fact that it was an absolutely beautiful outing. Now, there was, of course, a keynote address by our keynote speaker, His Excellency, BRF. There was also an address from Mrs. Ibukum Awushika, as well as two absolutely engaging panels. Last year was also pretty festive, as it happened to be BRF's birthday as well. So it was very interesting to celebrate all of that with the BRF GABFEST. But I'm going to stop talking right now because what better way to share the experience with you than to show you. We have a short 10-minute clip that shows the highlights from last year's BRF GABFEST. So if you can please direct your attention to the screen right now and yes, enjoy the experience that we got to enjoy last year.
Hey everyone, we're live at the BRF GABFEST2 holding at the City Hall, Lagos. Tagged, where are the jobs?
The next thing on the agenda, and it's going to be a panel discussion. The panel discussion is going to be exploring the employment market and job opportunities for the Nigerian youth. I would like to invite to the podium our moderator, who is an entrepreneur, a social activist, owner of Gaida Farms Limited. She's been featured on multiple media outlets as a social and political commentator. She's a graduate of finance from the University of Abu Dhabi and is passionate about community and development work. Ladies and gentlemen, please give an outstanding round of applause for Fakhrriyyah Hashim.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to the BRF GABFEST 2nd edition. So we're all here to answer a question, or rather explore a question, which is, where are the jobs now? So our panel discussion is going to revolve around this question, and we're going to explore quite extensively. We're going to touch upon human capacity development. We're going to touch up on local community development and also education. So, and we're going to take questions from the audience, of course, which will add to the conversation. So I would like to welcome our panelists. I'm going to call them out. We have Ifedayo Durosimi-Etti. She is an author, an entrepreneur, young global leader with over 10 years experience in management and leadership. She works in fashion, marketing, and manufacturing industries. She holds a first degree in biochemistry and an MBA in global business. Prior to moving back to Nigeria in 2012, she worked with Arcadia Group PLC, a British multinational retailing company that's headquartered in London, and Aspire Acquisitions. She later joined Nigerian Breweries as a young African talent and transitioned to their corporate communications department as corporate social responsibility and sustainability support manager, where she successfully managed various corporate social responsibility and sustainability projects. With her passion for women and children, she launched Parliamo Bambini and Philos and Zoe. startups disrupting the baby and child industries through locally manufactured furniture and clothing for children with the aim of reducing poverty, empowering the youth and promoting access to quality education in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. She's also very passionate about national development, so she launched a platform called the AGS Tribe to democratize opportunities for entrepreneurs across Africa, and the AGS Enterprise Challenge to empower female entrepreneurs through funding, mentoring, and training. Please welcome Ifedayo. So our second panelist is a young man that has accomplished quite a lot at such a young age. I'm a fan. So Yomi Adedeji. Yomi Adedeji is CEO of Softcom Limited, usually characterized as a thinking company which is focused on solving problems for business and social impact. They are focused on solving problems in identity, learning, payment, and data. And recently, they launched fintech product, Ayowo. Softcom has pioneered some of Africa's largest deployments of technology in addressing various problems for leading telecoms, consumer goods, financial, retail, and governmental organizations, such as MTN, the federal government of Nigeria, Diamond Bank, Fort Oil, Kraft Heinz, and Honeywell Foods. The company is currently helping the federal government of Nigeria to drive its graduate social impact program called Empower, where 500,000 graduates have been recruited, trained, and to be deployed and have been deployed as volunteer workers in key economic sectors. Under Yomi's leadership, Softcom led Diamond Bank's initiative of a $100 million technology intervention fund available to Nigerian universities to drive technology adoption, working with Samsung, Intel, and MTN. Yomi is committed to building an engineering company that will improve the way we live, learn, and work in the sub-Saharan Africa by focusing on 3 key premises: the ability to quickly verify and identify individuals, transact efficiently and easily, and the ability to learn easily and broadly. He is a graduate of Covenant University and an alumnus of Stanford University Seed Program in West Africa. Welcome, Yomi. So our next panelist is, well, an incredible gentleman who has achieved quite a lot. Please help me welcome Akintunde Oyebode. So Akintunde joined the Lagos Business School of the Pan-Atlantic University in 2004, where he provided research support, vice chancellor, and several faculty members. He was introduced to entrepreneurship in this role and helped prepare entrepreneurship case studies for postgraduate classes across various sectors, including transport, retail, trade, manufacturing, and hospitality. In 2005, he joined First City Monument Bank PLC, where he was tasked with developing a macroeconomic and industry research framework to support executive decision-making. In this role, he also supported the strategy formulation and execution function in the bank, and he was a member of the team that successfully raised over 25 billion naira in a public offer and executed the bank's retail banking strategy. He joined Stanbic IBTC Bank in 2010 as a segment manager, business banking, with a mandate to grow the bank's market share within that business banking segment of the retail market. In 2011, Akintunde was appointed Pioneer Head, SME Banking, and tasked with overall responsibility for managing the bank's SME portfolio across Nigeria. In this role, he was responsible for growing the bank's customer base from less than 15,000 at the inception to over 120,000 clients by January 2016. He also led the development of several lending products that provided financial support to SMEs and grew SME loan book to over 200 billion naira. He led the development of a business support service that ensured small businesses not only received funding, but also got training support to grow their businesses. In addition, he launched SME Biz Direct, the branchless platform to manage SME clients. In January 2016, he was appointed the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Thank you for having me. So our last panelist is Nkiru Achukwu. Please give her a round of applause. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Nkiru Achukwu is the founder and creative director of Zifans & Co. It is her love for fashion and the need to put West African fashion industry on the global map, combined with the need to create an avenue for affordable celebrity fashion that birthed what is now one of the leading made in Africa ready-to-wear companies in the country. Zifans & Co. is the parent company to a female and male ready-to-wear fashion brand tagged Le Victoria and Zuri Z, respectively. The company makes all of its pieces in Nigeria, using locally sourced fabrics, and also supports the sustainability of its employees and indigenous talents in Nigeria by collaborating with local crafters to highlight their artisanal skills. Thank you. So without further ado, we're going to kick off the conversation on where the jobs are. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions and we'll see how it flows from there.
So what are your expectations for today's meeting?
Well, it's giving you directions. And I know that today again, it's going to further strengthen our resolve that there's a hope for this country. The man in question who this program revolves around, Akintunde Fashola, is a man that is worthy of emulation. He is someone that his past speaks for him. And the present confirms what he was in the past. And I know that the future as well is very bright for him. So the youth should look towards guys like him. There are people in the country today that people use as their role model. That's a wrong one. The likes of Fashola should be our role model in this country. And that's why programs like this is good for the youth of this nation. So I want to give kudos to the organizers of this program, and I also want to commend Mr. Fashola for taking his time out to speak with the youth.
My first question goes to Ms. Akintunde. So, the UN estimates that Nigeria will need to create 11 million jobs per year to address its unemployment crisis. That's a total of 42 million new jobs to keep up with our constantly rising population. So as the Lagos State ES for the Employment Trust Fund, do you think we can transform employment opportunities to keep up with the rising population right now?
Okay, so I think the first unpopular opinion is we're certainly having too many children, right? So I think it's going to be incredibly difficult if you're growing your population at 3 to 4% annually to create jobs for what is already a large base of 180 million people. And you also have to situate that conversation in terms of the infrastructure deficits that we've been given over the last 16 years, right? So you have a country that has limited power, no rail infrastructure, bad roads. So it's a fairly difficult task, right? But I think that the recovery conversation has begun. And over the last 3.5 years, there's investment in the right things, right? So there's investment in social impact programs, for example, things like feeding children at kindergarten to primary school. Very important, right? Because we're in Lagos. Lagos is a misnomer. But you need to get these kids educated. You need to get them in schools. You need to provide an incentive for their parents to send these kids to schools. Now, providing meals to kids is that incentive. You also need to train these people, right? I work in a fund that tries to train and place unemployed Lagos residents, right? We've trained 3,500 people. It's a small number. We certainly need to grow that to 300,000 people. But there's capacity to take those people. So I think a growing economy underpinned by infrastructure development certainly gives you a platform to employ people. If we get our growth above 6%, and in this case, inclusive growth, right? So you need to understand that first, our economy was driven by what was effectively oil sector growth, right? Which doesn't really put many people in jobs. Now, if you start to focus on inclusive growth, agriculture, manufacturing, things like business process outsourcing, you start to increase broadband penetration, there's certainly an opportunity to create jobs for 40 to 50 million people over the next 10 years. So I think the building blocks have been done, right? In the last 3.5 years, I think there's been a lot of investment in the right things. If you ask me where I think the next level is, it's in building things around technology. It's in ensuring that state governments, don't charge exorbitant fees for broadband operators to lay fiber, right? It's in getting fiber to the kid in Kara Namoda. It's in democratizing access to the internet, the access you have in Lagos to that kid in Jos. That's where we should be going to, right? So I think the opportunity is definitely there. Nigeria has some upsides. We have a relatively young population, and contrary to what we think, we actually have a fairly skilled population. And I'll close with this point. So if a year ago, I met a gentleman, Israeli guy, who came into Lagos and said, I want to set up a call center in Lagos, but I need 500 qualified people. So tell me, why should I come to Lagos and not Kigali or Johannesburg or Cairo, right? And this guy, I actually thought he was a Mossad agent, deadpan, completely serious. So I made a pitch to him and said, we'll get you 1,000 people. Like, there's talent here. 6 months later, I don't know why he believed me. He believed the story, but they wanted 350 people to start. They had 2,000 qualified CVs, right? Now they've grown that business to 700 people. There's no reason why Nigeria cannot be the business process outsourcing capital of the world. There are only two things we need now: broadband and power. So the talent is here. There's no doubt about that. So the jobs will come.
So my next question is to you. We talked about the population explosion, yeah? So the population increase is almost evenly divided amongst gender lines. How do we transform employment opportunities to be balanced and inclusive enough to address the gender gap that we currently have in the labor market?
I think it all begins with mindset and cultural issues. Growing up in the rural parts of Nigeria, a lot of people have this mindset that women should not be educated, or they'll rather send their children that are men to school as opposed to sending their women to school. And that's where it starts from. If you're not educated, how are you going to solve a problem? How are you going to create employment? How are you going to develop your country? So I think it starts with education. But when people are educated, like when people get educated, then there's no opportunity that they cannot take advantage of. But the problem begins with people in the communities, people in those rural areas, the government needs to empower people. They need to understand that they cannot leave the 50% of the population uneducated and 50% of the population not working. Husbands also need to empower their wives. Women need to take responsibility for themselves, take advantage of the opportunities that are available in the country. For example, I know so many women who see opportunities and they don't take advantage of them. There are a lot of platforms that have been created, platforms like the Opportunity Desk. I created one, the AGS Tribe, that's democratizing opportunities for entrepreneurs. But these people don't even believe, especially the women. So I started creating a movement, letting them know that these opportunities are available for you. Africa, all eyes are on Africa now. People are looking at Africa. Like they said, there's talent. He's helping the government run Empower. They've created 500,000 jobs, and that's only one initiative. How about getting the education that you need so that you can take advantage of these opportunities to advance yourselves to the next level?
Okay, so you talked about women not taking advantage of the opportunities, but I would want you to talk more about the system that sort of hinders women from taking up those opportunities, because when we talk about taking up education, we're mostly referring to the lower class. Because at the middle class and the upper class, they have more opportunities, they have more exposure, but we're targeting the lower class. How does the system play a role in hindering women? Do you believe it does?
I think the government or the system doesn't really benefit women. For example, something happened recently of people who were sexually abused. And this issue is a very, very strong issue. Some people cannot even come out to talk about these things because men or people who are sexually abusing these people shut them up. And when you go to government and say, okay, this is happening, if those people have more authority over these women or these people don't have people backing them up, then they cannot speak up. So it starts with, the system doesn't really help people, but women, as women, we need to come together and have a voice. If we have that voice, we'll be able to take advantage and not let people bully us into doing those things that we don't want to do. But now people are speaking up. There are different instruments that people can use. People are using social media to talk about these issues that are going on. So if we use our voices, then we can take advantage of these opportunities, and those people wouldn't bully us because everybody has access to things like social media.
Thank you.
So what are your expectations?
My expectations are quite high because of the fact that the theme of this program today, where are the jobs? We believe that the Honorable Minister will be able to give us detailed analysis of where the jobs are. We know the rate of unemployment in the country. We know how Nigerians are suffering. And we want him to also give us the details of where the jobs are provided, because we know there are so many graduates outside. So we believe that today we will have answers to the question at the end of the day.
I expect this program to point me at certain directions. I don't want to be broke, and I don't want to be unemployed. So all of that is what I'm actually expecting, enlightenment in general.
Would you say that Nigerians are becoming more creative or are exploring their creativeness in spite of the government?
Well, I think if we come to terms with that, we have a huge population. And it's very easy to compare Nigeria with other countries, but it's not easy in practice. We're a lot of people, we're a whole lot of people. And we've gone through many decades of, I would say, lack of investment in the right things that stimulate society. Maybe it's in education, maybe it's in infrastructure. So I can't really say it's despite of government. Government fundamentally still will be, for now, because of our population, almost the biggest stimulator, whether in creating jobs or stimulating economies. But I think Nigerians they are resilient, they put it in practice. And I think we're now departing from almost complete expectation from government. We're still very reliant on it, to almost reliance on ourselves, on the opportunities that exist in our society. Let me give you an example. I think if you go and find, and this is also to answer the question, where are the jobs, right? I think there are three types of enterprise opportunities, right? There are needs that are underserved. People have these needs, there are companies playing in these spaces, but maybe they're not doing the best of it. So there's an opportunity for another person to create an enterprise. There are needs that are unserved. And I think Nigerians are now actively finding those needs and creating different enterprises within those underserved needs. So I don't want to say despite of government, because government has a role to play. But I think we're now, as a people, attempting to advance our cause ourselves.
All right, thank you.
Well, my expectation is high because what we were able to gain last time, and with the topic of today, where are the jobs? And I know we have the jobs. I know there are a lot of young Nigerians who are engaged now, a lot of rural people who most of the time are not feeling the impact of the government, are now knowing what government is all about, because government is doing a lot of projects, and then the rural are the ones that are enjoying now. Roads are being done, granite are getting it from the rural people, So they are being paid. So the money gets into the hand of the people who really needs the money, who really deserves the money, who the economy of the rural community are growing. Agriculture is now the order of the day. The farmers are now getting the best for their efforts. And yeah, security has improved.
And I'm speaking to every dreamer out here who is here with like some sort of dream or, you know, an idea that you're still a baby, you're still nursing and hoping that one day you will get big. It is possible. Look at me, 2 or 3 years ago, I would have had no business being here. But I'm here sitting on a panel with this amazing talent. And I got here because I believed in myself, I believed in my dream. I didn't get any funding from the government. I started really, really small, and we have grown. So it is definitely, Nigeria is a very big market. We are so many. Your business will sell. As long as it is the right thing, as long as you know there's a market for it. And there's a market for almost everything in Nigeria. I mean, my business is fashion. There's a business, you can thrive. No matter what that business is, you can definitely thrive. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I know that 15 jobs or 15 employees isn't so much, but we're growing. And we hope that one day we can employ hundreds of people in our business. We'll get there. But yeah, we have definitely contributed to the growth and to the reduction of unemployment in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right.
I'm expectant today. Because of first of all, the topic is very interesting. Where are the jobs? And I'm just looking forward to having very constructive an interactive great session with BRF and all the distinguished guests that are going to be here, and I'm just excited to be here today actually.
So I'll move to Mr. Akintunde. As the ES of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, I'm sure you're familiar with the Ready, Set, Work initiative by the Lagos State government to train final year students in LASU, that's University of Lagos, and UNILAG. We're talking for sustainability's sake. Do you have any manner of plans for these graduates? Because they have this entrepreneurship program and the top 3 get funding. What about the rest? Do you have any plans? Do you synergize with the RSW team?
Okay, so I think we have to expand the conversation, right? So to answer your question, absolutely. Right, so I run a fund on behalf of the Lagos State government. Now, if you go through Ready, Set, Work, you can always come to the Employment Trust Fund to get funded, right? So there's clear policy synergy where, yes, some people will get awarded some grants, but the large multitude of people that need funding will come to institutions like ours and even other federal institutions who are supporting small businesses. I think it's very important to place it on record that at national and sub-national level, the amount of funding that has been mobilized towards supporting small businesses in the last 4 years is unprecedented in the history of this country. That is a statement of fact. Whether it's, and you know, people come and say, you know, trader money is vote buying, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, you have to dump that stuff in Victoria Island where you live, right? Because 15,000 naira is a lot of money to someone in Ekpe, right? I learned in Ekpe, these guys go to the market once a week. Right? They want to reduce their transport costs. They go to the market with 10,000 naira, right? That 10,000 naira limits how much stock they can buy. So when someone says, take a loan of 25,000 naira, what you are doing is you are trebling the stock in that person's store. You are increasing the capital available to that woman. You are ensuring that she can send her children to school and pay for medicine when the children fall ill. You know, so the first thing is you've got to recognize that we're in a society where 50,000 naira is a lot of capital. You know, people are starting, look, we gave some guy a loan of 100,000 naira. He's a student in LASU. When the guy stood up to ask me a question, he said, you know, can I apply for this, your loan? I'm still in school. I said, oh, by all means, apply. I didn't know when the guy applied. Next thing I saw was the guy just sent me a text and said, I would like you to come and see my laundry business. He was a student. 250,000 I think we gave him. 25 people employed. Not only did they employ 25 people, he seeded a business for his little sister to start making smoothies in the same university campus. You know, it's not a multi-million naira business, but that guy is creating jobs for people at the bottom of the pyramid. Those are the poor and vulnerable people we should be solving problems for to start with. Now, with university students, with something like Ready, Set, Work, I think it's also important, and I think the point has been made that a lot of people now recognize that, you know, there's a limitation to finishing university and looking for a job. I mean, I certainly think I finished university at the right time. You know, at that time it was difficult, but if you did 1 or 2 tests, you get into a bank. But now it's incredibly difficult. Those jobs will not be... The structure of economies across the world changes very quickly. So 10 years ago, if you lived in the United Kingdom, you wanted to finish, end up working for Jaguar, working for Fiat, working in a car factory. Today, those jobs are largely going out of fashion. Today, I have a friend who all he does at events, he doesn't even sing, but he says he's a hype man, right? I didn't know what that was. I didn't think it was a career. But the guy certainly out-earns me significantly now, because every Friday, Saturday, Sunday is on a stage, miming, hyping, jumping around. I didn't think there was a career there, but there's a fantastic career there. You know, if you think about makeup industries today, for example, I mean, 10 years ago, would you have paid 50,000 to have your face made for one event? But I mean, some people pay it. I certainly hope my wife isn't, but some people pay it. You know, so I think the shape of work is changing, right? And one of the things that Ready, Set, Work is doing is following the change in that narrative. So we're not saying to people, you must go and work for PwC or Accenture or KPMG. We're saying to them, we'll teach you entrepreneurial skills. You can come to the Employment Trust Fund, get your first or second loan, but we're not going to lend you money forever. Because when you pay back that loan and show proof of track record, we'll then introduce you to a bank. Because again, we're not here to disintermediate banks, right? We're here to create first mile access for funding. So, I mean, to round up the conversation, I think there's also, it's not even just the government intervention conversation alone. It's also how do you enable businesses, right? So if you think about a lot of work being done on the ease of doing business reforms, that for me is more transformative and more significant than some of the things we even pay attention to. How do you register your business? How do you solve contract disputes? These are things that small businesses face every day. You know, when you give a tailor an order and that tailor does not perform to specification, how do you get redress of some sort? Those are the fundamental things that you need to solve. And I think those are the things that, you know, as a government, I mean, of course, I'm speaking here first as a public servant, and two, I'm obviously speaking as a politician. But those are the things that the government of today is resolving. You know, and you cannot build a society without resolving those problems. Those are fundamental problems that affect how people can grow their businesses. And I think that those are the things that we're focusing on as a government, and it's important to put it on record. Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question, and I just want a brief answer. So can we expect a continuity of the RSW program?
You know, it's very good. You know, just before you ask that, I noticed that the deputy governorship candidate of our party is here. So, you know, I think you find that one of the things we as a party will do is always have people with experience running our government. So the programs are not specific to administrations. Government is a continuum, right? You can't say, oh, I did this, because this guy did it, the next guy is not going to do it. At the federal level, the government in Abuja is continuing and completing projects that have been abandoned by previous governments. We didn't say, oh, they didn't build this bridge, so we don't have to build it. So, I mean, I run a fund on behalf of the government, right? I'm going to do that job for a fixed term and go away. Someone is going to come and continue from where I stopped. Someone is going to learn from the mistakes I've made and continue the program. So things like the Employment Trust Fund, Ready, Set, Work, these are all fundamental programs that will continue.
Fakhrriyyah is definitely one of the most outstanding leaders that Nigeria has ever had. Yes, and you know, he's asking the question, where are the jobs? I'd like to hear answers, because to be honest, I feel like, you know, now he's in the position of power. He has even more power now, and you know, we're expecting the same answers to come from even him too. You know, yes, he's in charge of electricity. If there was lights, maybe we'll be able to see the jobs. You know, so yeah, I want to hear what he has to say.
My next question is to you. So, your focus with the Nigerian breweries has been corporate social responsibility. So my question is, do you think private companies, through their CSR, can fill in the gap where the government isn't able to?
Okay, yes. So I think for sure, private sector should contribute to developing Nigeria as a company, and that's what the concept of Afro-capitalism means. Afro-capitalism just means that private sector, no matter how small, should contribute to developing society. For example, Bambini, which is my company, we manufacture locally made furniture for children across Nigeria. We have customers across different geopolitical zones, and I'm also a beneficiary of LSTTF, so they've been very, very good in disbursing, and I didn't know anybody when I applied. But the truth is, private sector as individuals, even individual social responsibility is very, very important. Something as little as just turning off a leaking tap when you see water leaking. Those are things that you have to do as an individual. And as a company, I think you should dedicate a percentage of your funds towards developing the economy. For example, we as a company, we help children with developing digital skills. Other people can pick up other things. As a person, as an individual, I help women develop entrepreneurial skills. That's why I started the AGS Enterprise Challenge to fund female entrepreneurs across Nigeria. And it's also to mentor them, train them, and give them the visibility that they need. I also wrote this book, Accessing Grants for Startups, to help entrepreneurs across Africa access grants and other opportunities. So sometimes people don't have access to loans, but you have access to grants. And then these grants are not just they're not just supplied by government or individuals. Global organizations are also giving out grants, but I noticed that people don't know how to apply for these opportunities. So if you get access to these opportunities, just respond professionally, and then you'll be able to take your business to the next level. So private sector, please, we all have a responsibility to contribute to developing Nigeria. Thank you.
So Yomi, my next question goes to you. So there have been a few fast-growing companies. I'll name two of them. Tomato Jaws, I don't know if you're familiar with them, and Real Fruit. So over time, they have been sort of taking us along on their journey through entrepreneurship. The amount of employees they hire, the progress of their businesses, and they have been facing extreme roadblocks, especially when it comes to fees that they have to pay, these tariffs, and you know, we keep talking about moving up in the ease of doing business index, but if these businesses are telling us that, you know, it's still hard for us, then, you know, isn't it more believable coming from them than from getting our information from, you know, from World Bank or any place else? And also, I would like to hear from you about what role do you think data can play in promoting opportunities for employment in both private and public sectors?
Thank you. Thank you. I think the very first time I was in Lagos by myself was in 2005. Prior to that time, I would always come to Lagos with my parents. So the very first time I found myself in Lagos, I was in 2005. In 2007, we started a company, which was like 2 years after the first time I came to Lagos. And I recall it was just myself and my partner, and we had one staff. Now we're 165 people in our organization. And I think one of the real things I can say is, for me, I never got the opportunity to ever work anywhere. So I don't really know what it feels like to find a job or to work in an organization and try to rise around. The only thing I've known is to start a business and attempt to grow it organically till you can find promise as a case. And we had many challenges. So I think the very first thing I wanted to say to that was, it's actually possible to start an enterprise here and take it forward, despite the many challenges we speak about. You mentioned that there are organizations in Nigeria who have also done the same and have faced, I would say, different bottlenecks or roadblocks in an attempt to build a business. And while that is true, right, I think the amount of enterprising opportunities that exist here is overwhelming. Every day I struggle with what business I shouldn't start, not what I should start. Because whether it's in attempting to cross over the bridge to come to the island, or maybe I think last week I was thinking of starting an hospital because one of my staff went to the hospital and it wasn't really well treated. So I think the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of overwhelming enterprising opportunity. And once you start to look away from what can I take, which is oftentimes where the mindset comes into play. What can I take from society, or what can I take from governments, to what exactly exists around me? And you start to look a lot more inward. You see the spaces to play as a case. Now for data, you did ask, is there an opportunity for internet penetration to be something to open access? I think data should be one new fundamental human right. I think every human being should have access to internet. Because the reality is, what it requires to fix education, we probably don't have it in financial resources, and even in time. We're late already on many fronts. So the internet itself offers one of the real opportunities to provide quality access to anything, whether it's quality access to education, quality access to healthcare, for the massive population we have. So I largely believe that data and internet penetration will play a huge role, and maybe governments today must not start to think about it as almost the new infrastructure to build, as we're attempting to build main infrastructure. We also want to think about what is the digital infrastructure we must build. Obviously, government can't build it all, but how can I enable and support the process that means that people are having access to internet connectivity as the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
BRF has always been an outstanding personnel when it comes to the law firm and the political stance. So I expect the best out of it, man. And the tag, the team, where are the jobs? I think I will look out for that.
My last question is to you, Mr. Akintunde. A majority of our population already works, although most work in low productivity, low income jobs that allow them to consume what they produce or live off modest profits from what they sell. Therefore, it's not just about jobs, but the quality of said jobs. In what ways do you think government can improve opportunities to ensure that the population can move towards attaining middle income status through quality jobs?
I think there are models that certainly work. I think first we have to be a bit more export focused. But even within the export markets, we need to be very laser focused on specific sectors. I think if there's one thing as a country we haven't done very well, is we've tried to do so many things, right? So if you look at Bangladesh, right, they've just nailed themselves to garment making, and said, we're going to be as good as anybody in this space, right? And we're going to use this industry to take millions of people out of poverty. Now, in my opinion, we could nail ourselves to something like business process outsourcing, right? We speak relatively toneless English, there's relatively decent talent, we are GMT +1, there's harmony with Central Europe, etc. There are a lot of things within that give us competitive advantage, right? And we can leapfrog some of our obvious deficiencies, where we are located geographically, our power, infrastructure deficiency, etc. So I think the one thing that we need to do is to say, look, all these guys who have gone into farming, right? They've learned some skill. I agree that a lot of the jobs you get in things like agriculture are relatively subsistence, low income jobs, which is a fair point. But instead of moving those people into the industries, we perhaps have a great opportunity to move them into the service economy, right? Because in all of these places, I think the point has been made across the panel, that there's a lot of incredible talent across the country. So the challenge isn't even, yes, our educational system can improve, etc. But in a country of 180 million people, trust me, there's enough talent to even start building that capacity. So the point has to be, look, take one or two sectors and focus completely on those. Morocco, for example, says we're close to Europe, we want to focus on the auto industry. So while the previous government was messing around trebling tariff on the auto industry, Morocco was saying to auto industry makers, we'll give you a tax holiday for 10 years. After that, for the next 10 years, you'll pay 8% or so in taxes. We'll build everything we need to build to be competitive in this one sector. And I think that's where we have to, as a country, start to find competitive advantage. Start with one sector, not 5 or 6 or 7 different sectors.
Basically, the theme is where are the jobs. So I'm here to actually know about the key issues about why we youth leave school and not get employed. a lot of us are actually self-employed. I'm self-employed, but it tends to, people actually want quality, but they don't get to pay for the quality jobs we get to offer. So I'm here to actually know more about the key issues on why jobs fluctuation is still in the country and why the economy is still at where it is presently.
Do you believe that we don't have a problem of opportunities but of skilled labor?
So I think it's a mix of a few things. So first, there's a lot of information asymmetry in the jobs market, right? There are jobs available, people don't know where they are. So from an infrastructure perspective, if you thought about different economies where there are job centers, where you could go and find, what jobs exist in this locality, etc., we have none of that infrastructure today. So there's that information asymmetry that you need to solve. Of course, there's also the need to provide some sector-specific skills. So that you're a generalist, right? You speak good English, you understand stuff, you can reason critically, etc. Doesn't mean that you're a great coder. It means that you have the attributes, right, for software development, but you then need that sector-specific skill, right, to lay on top of a lot of the generalist stuff we have. So I think our challenge is we have a lot of generalist skill, right, but there isn't enough sector-specific skill, and that's where the investment needs to happen.
I hope for a very interactive session, information, education, and yeah, have a good time and people to relate with all the dignitaries and important people here essentially.
So now we're going to go into the Q&A session.
If companies, different businesses decide to do a little CSR of their own and contribute to the community to help build, what are the rebates, tax cuts? Are these policies, are they available to encourage people to, do their own little thing from their profits?
So I think that's a fairly straightforward answer. So if you take the work, for example, the Dangote Group in Napapa with the Federal Ministry of Works, Power and Housing, they are certainly earning tax credits off that. But for small businesses, I mean, for example, for us at the Employment Trust Fund, we always say to businesses that we're happy to have the conversation with the tax authorities, right? And very clearly state before you contribute money that you will receive some tax credit for what you contributed to us. And we've seen corporates do that with us, in fairly small sums. Some have done even larger sums. But more importantly for the corporates and for even the small businesses, that you can target your CSR to something that affects you. Right? So it doesn't even have to be a general donation, right? So if you're interested in improving the quality of garment makers in Nigeria, because you're a fashion designer, you can come to an institution like ours and say, look, I want my money to this specific area, right? So not only do you get tax credits for it, you actually focus your funding on an area that you're very interested and passionate about. So those mechanisms already exist at subnational and national levels. Thank you.
For the average Nigerian youth, like you've all spoken about how there's a lot of talent in Nigeria, but my question relates to how we can circumvent the problem of having to seek employment through connections and use our own personal merit. Because as a lot of people know, there are a lot of unemployed youths walking around with first-class degrees, but then they don't know that certain person that can help them get to a position of employment. So what would you say to them, or what would you say to the basic youth in terms of them getting employment without using any godfather politics or whatever?
And I did finish with the first class, even though that was what the requirement was. But I was able to pitch myself and pitch my offering, pitch my value. A lot of people don't really know how to pitch themselves. I was speaking to an entrepreneur recently, and this goes both ways. So whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an intrapreneur, whether you're somebody who's looking for a job, you should learn how to pitch yourself. I met an entrepreneur, like I was saying earlier, some days ago, and he was telling me how he saw Mr. Lai Mohammed in the airport, and he was wearing his merchandise saying, all farmers must be rich in 2018. And he just went in front of him and just opened his arms, and he just kept on reading, all farmers must be rich in 2018. So it caught his attention, because I'm sure he has some money at his disposal and he's probably interested in agriculture. Unfortunately for this man, they were going on the same flight to Uyo. On the flight, he now called the flight attendant and said, please call me that young man. And he went to him and said, what can I do for you? Because he thought he wanted to do something. He thought he wanted to ask him for something. And he said, it's not what you can do for me, it's what I can do for you. I can help you build a farm for free, and you can introduce me to so and so. He pitched himself. So you need to learn how to pitch yourself whenever you meet people. Practice your pitch every day in front of your mirror. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're an entrepreneur, you never know who you'll meet in an elevator. An elevator can be anywhere. There are a lot of people here. Pitch yourself. There are people here. I'm going to pitch all the government officials here. You all must come. You must support the AGS Enterprise Challenge, which is focused on women in business. Women need to be seen. A lot of women are doing amazing things. Last year, I got over 1,000 people apply, and we funded a few businesses, but they got visibility that they needed. So that's my pitch to all the government officials that are here. Please support the women in business. Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Sean David Onomosi. I'm a data strategist with a global pharmaceutical company. I'm based in the UK, so I'm one of those returnees, well, diasporans that came to vote at the election, but God bless our country. Now, as a data strategist, one of the key things is that the devil is in the detail. And we talk about unemployment, and unemployment is very pivotal, it's key. However, we also have a large chunk of people in vulnerable employment. Now, that's the global average for vulnerable employment is 43.2%. Sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, it represents 70% of that. So you can look at how those numbers will trickle down to Nigeria. Now, vulnerable employment are people who don't have access to these social schemes. They end up earning maybe 20K or whatever the minimum wage is, and they spend most of it when they're ill and the rest of it. Now, my question is, what can the government do to support that and look at a more holistic approach to this unemployment issue within the country? And also, as entrepreneurs on the table, what are your views about internships? Because that could be a pivotal area as well. Thank you.
Okay. I'll attempt to ask the connection question while answer the connection question while I'm answering what are opportunities for internship and what can government do. So I think before you can win any game, I think the first reality is to know what you're up against. Today, about 1 million people make it into the job market every year. So if you're someone seeking for employment, you must know that you're one of the 1 million people who have now made it into society seeking for jobs. And the reality as well is they're not probably up to 1 million jobs that are there for people to take. So I think that if we fundamentally change some of the things we're thinking about. So for example, you don't need to know anybody to wake up in the morning. You don't need any connection to just rise up at 7 a.m. as the case is. Neither do you don't need any connection to determine what you spend your day doing. And you don't definitely need any connection to determine what you do at night. I think in between those things, you will find opportunities that means that, oh, there's skill I can go develop. As an example, maybe I studied engineering, but I need to go develop a skill in customer service for the job that is available. Or there are also enterprising opportunities around you, whether it's something people need or something businesses need, that you can actively begin work with even without capital. Because oftentimes, there's always the limitation of, I don't have enough money, I don't have anybody that will go to take. So I think that if we fundamentally change some of the things we're thinking about. So for example, you don't need to know anybody to wake up in the morning. You don't need any connection to just rise up at 7 a.m. as the case is. Neither do you don't need any connection to determine what you spend your day doing. And you don't definitely need any connection to determine what you do at night. I think in between those things, you will find opportunities that means that, oh, there's skill I can go develop. As an example, maybe I studied engineering, but I need to go develop a skill in customer service for the job that is available. Or there are also enterprising opportunities around you, whether it's something people need or something businesses need, that you can actively begin work with even without capital. Because oftentimes, there's always the limitation of, I don't have enough money, I don't have anybody that will give me money. I can guarantee to you that none of those things is as important as just deciding to wake up in the morning and go out there as the case. I think speaking to that for the connection. For what can government do? Our problem is a bit dynamic and special. Special in the sense that you have opportunities and you have jobs, but you don't have people, in many cases, that have the skills for the jobs that are available or that are opening their eyes to the opportunities that exist. So I think an active effort in ensuring that the economy can be stimulated. I mean, Fakhrriyyah mentioned in Morocco they decided to start vocational centers focused on possibly the automobile industry. I think government targeting what are the skill gap that exists for the job opportunities that we have, and how do we provide, in some way, maybe not, I don't want to use the word subsidy, because that's not really something I'm thinking, but in some ways, some sort of leverage or some sort of opportunities for people within the society to go learn those skills and match themselves to the opportunities that exist. In our, as an example, we have an internship program. We take 25 interns every year. But the sad bit of this is, even though we take 25 every year, we can only keep 5. And we already know from the beginning of the year, because that's what we budgeted for. And every time that I have to let the 20 go, I always have to think about, or maybe I call some of my friends, I tell them, oh, there are 20 people that have gone to our organization that may be relevant to work for you. So we will all continue to figure out ways to, I would say, absorb in whatever form we can. And hopefully, maybe there are also more government incentives to encourage starting. Whether it's tax incentives for the guy that is starting, or tax incentives also for the guy that is attempting to do something meaningful. I think those things, all of the combination of these things will help in advancing our cause forward. Thank you.
Okay, so I think just to add some context to it, some of these things exist, right? So there's tax holiday for startups, for example, right? Now, to what extent we are communicating that maybe we're not doing it as much as we should, but some of these incentives exist. And I hear the point on vulnerable labor. One of the things, for example, we have done in Lagos State as a sub-national is to launch a health insurance scheme where the state government covers the cost for a lot of the poor and vulnerable people. Now, it's important that you provide some predictability around healthcare because your biggest productivity killer is healthcare. So we look at our loan program at the Employment Trust Fund. When the principal promoter of the program falls ill, they miss the repayment for that, right? It's almost clockwork. Whether the business is open or not, once they fall ill, they miss the repayment. So it's important that, of course, other sub-nationals as well start to look at this kind of health insurance programs to ensure that we reduce the vulnerability, especially at the poorest levels. Now, to the point around internships, placements, etc., the real issue here is still the information asymmetry, right? So this is still a fairly personal touch, right? You still require someone to call someone somewhere. Now, part of what we are planning to do as government, as a sub-national government, is to create a platform where people can come independently as employers and know that they can find certified, trained, well-trained, competent people without having to know anybody, right? So we do the background checks, we do the security checks, we do the certifications, and you can come there as an employer and find a mason, or find a tailor, or find whoever you want. So the role of government is to be an enabler, it's not to be a participant, right? So our work is to just say, we are creating a platform that removes the information asymmetry between employers and employees. Thank you.
My name is Durosimi-Etti from Salamotu Dosumu Skill Acquisition Foundation. Sorry, I want to lend my voice to the system itself now. I found out this skill last year, and I graduated like 1,005 as we speak now, just a year. The point I'm trying to make now is, I looked at the system, I looked at people around me, I looked at how accessible they had to various skills. Like the other man was saying, makeup. I knew people could make more money through makeup, and I said, what can I do? Let me bring those people to myself. Let me train them, even with my own, in my own capacity. And I know at various levels, the local government, the state government, and the federal, level, they have Ministry for Youth and Social Development. So if I can achieve this, and people are trooping in, they're trooping in to this program. So please, I want all the levels, because
I can't imagine that crowd. At the point I could have about 500 at a go in a community. I want them to look deep into how they want to embrace these youth, to make them participate in these programs. I can tell you, I feel for them. And it's because I know the government could do more, because at these 3 levels they have representatives doing this, in charge of these skills. Unskilled skills and all that. They have representatives. How are they bringing out those kids to, endeavor? It's a key issue, please. So, please, let the people in charge, let them go out. Let them go out and get these kids involved, because I am doing my part in Nigeria at school. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yomi Adedeji. I'm from First CRT Management Services, and our specialist area is recruitment and training. The question that I have, and I'm glad to have seen Mr. Oyebode on there from LSETF. My question is, what are we going to do in this sector that we work in to help the youth understand that they need to gain vocational skills and employability skills in addition? Because this is what would help them to do well in their professions. So we need to turn, our nation Nigeria has focused too much on getting degrees and getting certificates. So we have 1,000,001 holders of degrees who are not enabled to do a job. They do not understand work skills, they do not understand what is required to even work in an industry or even run a business appropriately. So I want to ask, what are we going to do? We need to change the mindset of our people. Stop getting all these degrees. The degree in itself is not going to get you a job. The degree in itself is not going to move you forward. Get a skill. Be trained. If you're going to go into the health and beauty sector, be trained to the level that you're an expert. If you're going to go into carpentry, be trained to the level that you're an expert. So what I'm asking is, in the vocational training sector, what are we going to do to ensure that our youths get the appropriate training? If somebody is skilled and they come to my company for work, I would employ them over somebody who has 10,000 degrees. Let's change.
We're gonna let Nkiru answer this last question, and then that's gonna be it for the Q&A.
I'm so happy someone brought that up, because for as long as I've been in business, I've had so many young people come to me to say, oh, what can I do? There are no jobs. How can I make more money? And my answer has always been the same. Learn a skill. Whatever it is that you do, try to be the best at it, because there will always be someone who needs your skill. So, saying how can the government improve, or how can the government create avenues where people can be trained to the maximum capability. To be honestly, in my area of industry, in fashion, I know tons of government-aided bodies that train tailors. You go there, you have nothing, no degree, they just do an interview, make sure that you're up to, you can understand training, and they train you, and when you're done, they train for free. So if you're here today trying to learn how to be a tailor, all you need is internet. Go online and search, how can I work, where in Lagos is training tailors, or where in Lagos is training a baker, or where in Lagos is training. There's so many opportunities. And then when you come out, if there are 10 tailors here today, I will hire you. There's so many opportunities. So it is not, I don't think the question is about what can the government do, because there are actually already systems in place that are training tailors for sure. I know that much. That just put yourself out there. Don't sit down in your house and hope that someone will come and tell you that this is where they are training tailors today. Go on the internet, do your research. There's so many people training tailors and training other vocational skills as well. Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to the end of the Q&A. I would like to thank the panelists for coming here. Ifedayo, Yomi, Akintunde, and Nkiru, thank you so much for participating in the BRF GABFEST, and it's a pleasure being the moderator here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
BRF is known for quality and excellence, yes. So you should expect the best from this event.
I know in this country there are not really much job like that, but my advice to the youth is that even if government did not provide jobs for us, we should all make sure we empower ourselves by doing something else. We must not all do white-collar job. We can also do something else.
I expect him to carry the student along at large since they invited us here, and the team is very, very interesting, which I expect a lot about the team. And I'm sure it's really, really going to be encouraging and a very, very interesting meeting.
Mr. Fasholla's strategy as a minister has been to set out clear and practical roadmaps to take forward the 3 crucial sectors of the ministry under his watch, following comprehensive consultations and tours of the country's infrastructure. In power, which seems to be the most sensitive of the 3 sectors touching the hearts of Nigerians, Fasholla has grown the generation capacity from 5,000 megawatts in 2015 to above 7,000 megawatts in 2018 and still counting. He has grown the transmission capacity from 4,000 megawatts in 2015 to 7,000 megawatts in 2018, while distributable power has grown from 2,690 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts in 2018. This is in line with the pursuit of a set roadmap to move Nigeria's power from incremental through steady to uninterrupted power. In works, another sector close to the heart of Nigerians, it has in the last 3 years reactivated work on all abandoned road projects across the 6 geopolitical zones, constructing and rehabilitating a total of 2,336 roads and generating employment for 79,378 Nigerians between 2015 and November 2018. Most outstanding road projects undertaken within the period are the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Second Niger Bridge, the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Expressway, and the Bodo-Boni Bridge and Road, all of which have either been abandoned or neglected for about a decade. Can we please put our hands together for him? Mr. Babatunde Fasholla attended Birch Freeman High School, Lagos, and Ibobi College, Lagos. He studied law at the University of Benin, from where he graduated with a Bachelor's of Law degree in 1987. Mr. Fasholla was called to the Nigerian bar in November 1988. He was admitted as an associate to the law firm of Shofunde, Osakwe, Ogundipe, and Belgore, and exposed to litigation over a wide range of practice areas like chieftaincy matters, land disputes, intellectual property, company law matters, family law and succession, commercial and criminal law, to mention a few. In August 2004, he was conferred with the rank of the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Nigeria's highest legal distinction. He is the first ever member of the 1988 law school set to take the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and second University of Benin Faculty of Law graduate to be so honored. Throughout his tenure as Governor of Lagos State from 2007 to 2015, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fasholla, SAN, demonstrated a commitment to excellence in public service and an uncommon dedication to his avowed pledge to lead the change that will transform Lagos into Africa's model megacity. Both nationally and internationally, he was acclaimed as one of the bright hopes for the future of Nigeria and one of the very progressive governors determined to reclaim Nigeria's past glories through competent and transparent leadership. Indeed, his unflagging spirit and leadership as governor of Lagos led the government to explode many negative myths about Lagos. Mr. Babatunde Fasholla, SAN, is the recipient of the prestigious Stephen J. Solars Award of the International Crisis Group of 2015 for his commitment to building a peaceful and vibrant society. His work to improve social and economic conditions in Lagos include his role in preventing the Ebola outbreak from becoming a crisis in Nigeria. He was listed in 2014 as one of the 100 top global thinkers for 2013 by a global personality assessment organization, Lo Spazio della Politica, based in Italy and Brussels. Time magazine has commended him for the overhaul of Lagos infrastructure, while The Economist magazine acknowledged him as a rare good man and a governor who does his job well. Mr. Fashola SAN is patron, Institute of Arbitrators, member, Nigerian Bar Association, member, International Bar Association, and fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, Nigeria. He's a member of several social clubs, a patron of many others, an avid sportsman and sports lover, and mentor to many, many young people. Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola SAN is married to Dame Emanuela Abimbola Fashola, and they are blessed with children. Can we please rise up on our feet, put our hands together to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola SAN.
Well, let me just say Mrs. Abimbola Fashola is in the house and she has refused to come forward. But I thank her very much for the support, and really without her, where would I go? I also want to thank the Temple Group who put this together, and all are very intelligent, resourceful, and really great thinking panelists who have entertained us with their knowledge. They have shared their determination. They have shown that they are truly made in Nigeria and that the undying spirit of Nigeria resides very, very deeply in their heart. With these panelists, I am sure that Nigeria is in the right place and heading to the next level. You know, listening to them, telling us the truth, that we have to manage our numbers. So you can't, if your income is not growing, you can't just be having children. And it's a conversation we must have as a nation. It's a serious conversation. If truly we agree that there is poverty, if truly we agree that there is unemployment, then there must come a time as a people we must have consensus and say, let's slow this down a little bit, so that we can deal with those who are here. Otherwise, those we are bringing in are coming into what? That's not such a difficult matter to agree on. So you guys out there who are still doing that business, please slow it down, eh? Just slow it down. I didn't say stop it. You know, Abimbola and I stopped this business 18 years ago. So it's not every time you have to score a goal. So we leave it there. But we need to control those numbers. And those who say culture, that culture is an unproductive culture. It's a culture that will tie us down in backwardness. And we have to leave it behind. If you can manage 20, by all means, if your resources can manage it, go ahead. But if your resources can manage only 2 and you don't have 10, So we leave that matter. So we have to confront these things. They have held us back for too long. You know why I have to? When I was alone, all my money was my own. So when Abimbola decided to marry me, she don't bring big. So my 10 naira, my share was now 5. No, we were doing 50-50. And she was earning money. And I never asked her what she would do with her money. Then Ademola came. Then my share became 1/3. Then Olayinka came. Then I became 25%. Then I knew that, hey, madam, let's talk. She said, I thought you were not going to bring it up. I was thinking that way too. So we just agreed. No more. Because the income wasn't growing. So just imagine, so if you are still at that 10 and you have reached 8, your share will not begin to drop from 50 until you are 1/8. But on a serious note, I asked the organizers to make 100 copies of this book available to the first 100 people who arrived today. And should you wish to read the book, well, you will have to buy your own copy. It's a very interesting book. It takes you back to Nigeria's history, some topical issues that happened here. Some of them are repeating themselves. And I think those of you who were too young at the time to understand, or who had not arrived then. So if you were here in 1980, just raise your hand. You were here in 1980. You had arrived. Okay. But there is a very interesting chapter. How many of you have heard about the cement armada? How many? The cement armada. You see, that's why you should read this book. You know, in 1974-75, we built the Murtala Mohammed Airport. It was perhaps, I think it was the best airport in sub-Saharan Africa. If there was any airport that competed with it, probably South Africa, but I didn't even know South Africa then. And the plan was that we would be expanding it. And at that time, I think Heathrow was Terminal 2 or 3. So, did it expand? And where is Heathrow now? Terminal what? You get the picture. So there is nothing wrong with us. And the same is true of that Apapa port. So you see trucks on the road today. They don't want to park there. They want to enter a place. They want to enter a port. So if you read the story of the cement armada, it will reveal to you starkly. You can Google it, it's reported online. You can Google it and you see what we did. Our port was built in 1920 or 21. And we waited until after the Civil War when we started massive reconstruction. And we imported more cement. Even at that time, Dangote hadn't started making cement. So we had to import cement. And we imported more cement than the whole of Europe could process at one time. And we put it in the 1921 port. And we signed demurrage agreement. And I think we were paying $4,000 per day at that time, per vessel. So it got to a point where the vessels couldn't discharge again. So the only way to stop the demurrage was throw the cement into the sea and go. In this country, don't believe me, go and read it. So they are very interesting stories. So what is happening here today in this port is not an accident. It's the result of the bad choices that we have made over the years. And that is what I speak to today about where the jobs are. Unfortunately, I don't have a prepared speech for you, but I hope that we can have a conversation. A conversation about what I am doing in government. A conversation about what President Buhari thinks that we should be doing in government, and Professor Yomi Adedeji. Because I have heard people in an electoral season come and say, yes, you are poor, you don't have jobs, we will create jobs. But have you asked them how? Those are the questions we should have. Those are the conversations we should have. Why were there no jobs in the last decade and a half or two? Why are there jobs in the Middle East? Their primary source of income is oil. So we saw Dubai expand its airport, build its roads. They were making the same petrodollars that we were making. But where did the money go? So let me connect jobs to infrastructure first. So let's start that conversation. And there is this publication, I think it's the IFC, that just shows comparative analysis what happens to an investment of $1 billion in regions across the world, and depending on the state of development or lack thereof. And I'll just read some bits of it. A US $1 billion investment in infrastructure will generate approximately 40,000 direct and indirect jobs. These estimates exclude induced jobs, and I'll talk about induced jobs. In the Middle East, a similar investment will generate about 110,000 jobs. And in the Gulf region, it will generate about 49,000 jobs. Now, this publication then goes to talk about direct jobs, which are created in a specific enterprise, indirect jobs, which are linkage and supply-related jobs, and induced jobs, which are examples of maintenance, consumption that go and support construction. There are other levels, second order or growth-related jobs. But it shows very, very clearly that if you invest in infrastructure, you are attacking unemployment in many ways and on many fronts. Some of the panelists here have spoken to those issues about power supply, about bandwidth and internet connectivity. Those are infrastructure investments, about transportation. So what is the Buhari government doing? We're building roads in every state of Nigeria. The conversation before was there was no federal government presence in my state. That conversation has changed now to when are you going to finish the work? We are intervening in economic clusters. So you will see in Sura Market in Lagos, you will see in area, you see what's the name of this market in Ibadan, and Sabon Gari Market in Kano. We're saying that businesses deserve and are entitled to uninterrupted power. And we're doing the same thing in 9 universities, building IPPs. We haven't finished them, but we have started. We are constructing roads in 14 universities, roads that have been left untouched for over 2 decades. So, this is what we're doing, and they are creating jobs. Now, let me provide the linkage for you. Every time you see or you hear that the finance minister has released money for contractors, the money moves straight to the contractor. But the contractor doesn't keep the money. You know what he does? He places order. What does he order? He orders sand, laterite, granite, cement, iron rod. Because he doesn't keep them. How many of you have been to a quarry? You know what goes on in a quarry? Do you find quarries in the city? Where are they? So this is perhaps the biggest investment of economic activity going on in Nigeria's rural areas. People mining, people producing, people transporting. Now, all of the mined products have to be transported. So you need drivers, you need trucks, you need tires, you need lubricants. Oh, are they falling from heaven? Certainly not. Somebody is supplying them. So that value chain is moving. The granite gets to a batching plant, and labor and machine begin work. So on a project like the second Niger Bridge, it is going to require 19 million liters of diesel. So if you are a supplier, that's an economy for you. So those who come to you and say, I'm going to create your, ask them how. What are they going to do differently? And if we have started, can they run faster than us? This was an opportunity that they missed. And we are doing so now with less the money that they have. The dollar price of crude oil is about 50 something. At one time, it reached 140 here. Why didn't they construct these roads? They left 800 containers in the port. 800 of our containers containing power assets. So we released 720 of them. So when they come and tell you about your job, please ask them how. There is nothing wrong with our country. Let me say that again and again and again. There is nothing wrong with our country. But there is a lot wrong with the choices that we have made. Now, at one time, we were owing foreigners. Was it so? There was a debt. So just imagine that you were owing your child, your bank, and the roof of your house had been blown away by storm. And you had a choice to make. To roof your house and provide shelter for your family or pay your creditors. What would you do? Hello? We made a choice here to pay foreign creditors first. We paid $12 billion out in 2005 in order to get debt forgiveness of $19 billion. And only to go and borrow more. So by the time Buhari came, Nigeria was in debt again of $60 billion. And you didn't have infrastructure. So if that infrastructure, $12 billion, had been used to build rail, to build power, to build bridges, these businesses would have done better. Those were the choices we made. So leave the colors, leave the candidates, look at the choices they are presenting to you. Now, at the time too, we made a choice to import rice, to import sugar, and to import milk and fish. So if you look in central bank's published reports, you will see that we used to import $1 billion plus annually of rice. $1 billion worth of rice annually. Meanwhile, you can plant rice in Kebbi, in Ebonyi, in Lagos, in Niger, in Egua, in Ofada. But a group of people made a choice to say, let us import it. Is that how to create jobs? Who were the ones benefiting? Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam, those were their farmers. So let us not moan about jobs. Let us look critically at the choices we have made. And we made the same choice for fish, and we made the same choice for sugar, where we have sugar cane. But you know what? President Buhari said we will produce our own food. And from $1 billion a year worth of import of rice, the import bill as released by Central Bank for rice has dropped as of last year to $18 million from $1 billion. From $900 plus million for sugar and $900 plus million for fish. The import bill for sugar dropped to $300 million and the one for fish dropped to $17 million. That is the choice we have made, that the opportunities to provide sugar represents opportunities for employment here. The opportunity to grow rice represents opportunities for employment here. And the opportunity to provide to fish represents opportunities for employment here. So those are the choices. As you go out to cast your vote, choose the one that you want. If you want to go back to importation, it is your choice. But let me remind you that at the time we were making those not well thought out policies, oil was trading at 140. It is now half or less than half the price. So if we had not stopped, would we have been able to pay? Think about it. Now, also, where are the jobs? In 2010, I think it was, about 300 people had difficult business terrain. They were owing Nigeria's banks about 5 trillion. 300 Nigerians. And it was a government decision to say, all right, in order that you don't bring down the banking system, we will bail you out. So 300 people got 5 trillion naira. Essentially, that's what we handed them. That was a choice. But what were the consequences for that support? Really no consequences. And they have continued to behave the same way. There is nothing wrong with supporting them so that they don't bring all of us down. But remember when Barack Obama did the same thing to save the auto industry? Remember what he did to them? They flew to Washington, he said, go back and drive like ordinary people and come and show that you have learned your lesson. You remember that? But our people didn't do that here. It's business as usual. So Buhari government now says, okay, some people have been supported at the top. What about those at the base of the pyramid? So he said, let's start a social intervention fund. You know, there is poverty in every part of the world. Whether it is extensive or not extensive, it's a question of what you do about it. But if you do nothing about it, it will get worse. So, and they decided, okay, people who are out of school, let us start a program, Empower. Children who are malnourished, let us start a school feeding program. So 9 million children get fed every day. I hear the argument, the quality of the food is not good. You go and tell the children. If you have woken up in the morning and there is no food, not even garri, you can tell them that the quality is not good. And go and tell their parents. Oh yes, there's always room for improvement in everything. But one government said we will not turn our eyes away from the people at the bottom of the pyramid. But you know what that does? It creates a linkage support for farmers, eggs, rice, banana, and so on and so forth. That is how an economy should work. Everybody contributing and producing. Let me say about infrastructure that the best way I explain it to people is a man who starts life in a one-bedroom apartment. And his him, his bed, and his shower, and his other place. And then he gets married in the same room. And fortunately, I think it is fortunate, that the first set of children they have are twins. And the room has not expanded. And even more fortunately, the next set of children are triplets. So with 5 plus 2 in one room, what are you beginning to see? Hello? If the bedrooms become 3 and the bathrooms become 2, what happens? So flip that around to the man who was living in a 3-bedroom flat, and on the day he got married, they moved to a 5-bedroom house. And after 2 children, they stopped. What do you see? So, in the way that infrastructure defines your lives and I, that is how it defines the status of nations. That is the difference, one of the pivotal differences between developed nations, developing nations, and underdeveloped nations. It is the quality of infrastructure. It's most defining. So when you see people living homes, food, shelter, and trying to cross the desert with all their life savings, that's the only thing they probably are in pursuit of. And therefore, we must, without a doubt, invest in it. In my citation that I've read here, the life-defining infrastructure, roads across Nigeria, the rail network to relieve the roads and evacuate cargo from the port have already been committed to. The major roads that serve Nigeria, Lagos's industrial complex, the Apapa, Oworoshoki Road, they've already awarded the contract. Contractor is mobilizing to site. The Ikorodu to Shagamu Road, we've already awarded the contract. The Lagos Ota, Abeokuta, we've already awarded the contract. If you know Ota, if you know Shagamu, if you know Amuwo, Apapa, Matori, Ilupeju, those are the industrial clusters of Lagos. All those roads were left behind. We have awarded them now. That is the road to industrialization, to expansion, and to employment. Every foreigner who has legitimate papers to come to Nigeria is welcome. If you want to work in Nigeria, the same regulations that apply in your country, that you must get a work permit here, go and get a work permit. If you don't get one, you are on my side, I will take you out, and I will not pay you. That is already happening. I refused to pay approved payment for one consultant about 2 months ago, because I said I wanted to see his work permit and to make sure it was valid for the period the work was done. Otherwise, I will not pay. And thankfully, he produced. So these are the policies about jobs and employment that are in place by the Buhari government. Now, let me speak to the last one, which is maintenance. We have talked about infrastructure, right? But no country builds forever. In the built industry, maintenance employs, let's start with what maintenance doesn't employ. Design. And those who are in the built industry here, the engineers, the architects, and all of them, are they in the house? Good. Design employs just about 6% of the total capacity of the built industry. Note that 6. Construction employs about 15%. That takes us to 21. Governance employs about 2%. That takes us to 23. The remaining 70-something% is maintenance and operation. So this morning, when we came here, the air conditioning wasn't working. Right? But I knew it would work. You know why? We set up the maintenance of this building when I was governor. I knew it would work. So I had no panic. We set up an office of facility management here. And we have proposed the same to the Federal Executive Council. And I think about a month or 2 ago, it was finally approved. It was 2 years' work. And we went to assess prisons, federal secondary schools, federal hospitals, federal court buildings, my own ministry, and there were 9 buildings that we took as sample. And we saw that maintaining 9 buildings alone, those 9 buildings, employed almost 400 people. And we thought, if we did this nationwide, what will happen? So if we just look at some of the Unity schools, there are 104 of them. One employs about 30-something people. And we got approval to start. Now, you know why that is important? Everywhere that we go, many of us, whether it's a public building, whether it's a hospital, whether it's City Hall, whether it's this, we will see a broken door. Not so? Whose job is it to repair a door? We will see leaky pipes. Don't we see them? You will see showers that don't work in hotels. Don't you see them? How can those opportunities exist and we have artisans, plumbers, welders, electricians, and they are unemployed? Is there not something wrong? Something was wrong. We once thought, or we once argued, that maintenance was a culture. It's not a culture, it's an economy. And a government that has its head in the right place, like we do, have provided approval for a national infrastructure maintenance framework and policy that will be implemented. We're starting with public buildings. Mind you, currently as I speak, our consultant is working on 180-something transmission substations to design a maintenance framework for them and safety. We are also undertaking the same with roads, and it will happen to rain. So those who are looking for big men, Godfather, we will advertise these jobs. You don't need to know anybody. If you want to use your hands to work, we are positioning for you. You see, all of this, and I like that statement about university degree. Your degree doesn't entitle you to a work. It prepares you for work. It's not an entitlement to a job. And all of our panelists have said our economy is shifting. So those days when you graduate, they come and put you sub-accountant, you be moving ledger. It's movable. We need to build. We need to farm. So those who are willing to get their hands dirty, you see Chinese here. What work do they likely do? Hello? If you are not ready to get your hands dirty, you can't keep your degree at home. He said, yeah. That's the direction in which our country is heading. And we potentially can be the biggest food exporter on this continent. And we are already exporting food. But the story is lost on some of us who don't leave Lagos. You know, there is a place, Dawanu Market, between Kano, the way to Katsina from Kano. Who knows that place? What do you see there every morning? Trucks loaded with onions, tomatoes, going to Central African Republic. Thousands of them. They are paid in self and foreign exchange. So carry your degree, so you don't know what. Farmers are making money. And they haven't even started going into processing. And the same thing. Thousands of trucks are leaving Nigeria, supplying the whole of the Sahel, exporting grains. And there is still a lot more to come. We promised that we would diversify Nigeria's economy. It has begun to happen. We have heard from the fashionistas, we have heard from the entrepreneurs, we have heard from the data processors, and we have heard from the government agency that is providing the support. One of the things that my ministry does is to give approval for people who want to lay fiber and increase bandwidth. Every time I see those fires, I just make sure that the rate is low, is repair rate, because there is no income in charging people for fiber. There is income in the economic activity that fiber brings and connectivity brings. And all of the state governors that have proved a little difficult, I've always either called them directly or written to them to say, look, please, give this man a concession, let him just leave the fiber optic, let's connect the whole of Nigeria, then we are on our way in terms of internet connectivity and bandwidth connection to do business. Because that is the tool of this generation with technology and all of that going on. So, and you will see that over the last 10 years, perhaps the complaint about internet service providers about laying fiber cable has reduced. I've also challenged the telecoms companies to use our eligible customer policy so that they can get all their towers and masts off generators and get connected to the energy that we clearly have to sell and reduce the cost of doing business. So I'm waiting to talk to them about how this can work. So clearly and in closing, we have to create the jobs. The opportunities for doing so are here. The government is committed to enabling business because the largest employment lies in the private sector if they become competitive, if they become productive, and with the right infrastructure, with the right policy, that can and will happen. So it is really in your hand now to choose. But nobody, no nation has ever produced jobs by proclamation. Thank you.
Tourism in Nigeria, because we have very, very fantastic destinations. We have potential. Just imagine, okay, I organize a regular trip to somewhere like Takwa Bay. Unfortunately, there's no light. That is number one. If you know the number of people I employ just to make a trip to Takwa Bay happen, the person who drives the boat is going to get employed. The locals who sell souvenirs, they're on the beach, they're going to get employed, they make money. The children who fetch firewood for us to have bonfire, this is just a small fraction of the potential in the tourism industry. Takwa Bay, as it is, has, I think, 1 or 2 hotels, and we have a lot of white people flock in and out of that place on a regular. So, business is going to be a lot more easier for someone like me if there's electricity. We have investors coming to build places like hotels, resorts, and a lot of them. So please, just to cut it short, what is this government doing about tourism in Nigeria?
So my question is this: isn't it problematic that someone from, let's say, my local government, Barbara in Jigawa State, that's in Jigawa State, someone goes out on the streets, doesn't see roads, goes to the schools, they're not equipped, goes to the hospital, not equipped. And the first person that comes to his mind is Buhari. And the reason why is because, well, our chairmans are, whether they're there or not, councillors, they might as well not be there because they do not command authority. And I believe that we cannot have there can't be development without local government autonomy. There can't be local economic development. There is just no way that power can be so centralized. And you know, we keep pulling at ends thinking that we can actually make a change when we're barely impacting the grassroots. So that's just my question.
Now my question is, the invented power project that you are doing for universities, when will it spread to polytechnics and colleges of education? And two, I want to receive an advice to your officer is that the ministry should allow engineering students of these universities or polytechnics to be part of the construction of the road. An internship program for them, because they will actually be able to offer
something that's raised concerns for the past few years, and there's something regarding to tank farms operating in residential areas. And that has really drawn my concern over the years. Every time I have the opportunity to grab the microphone and speak with someone in government, I always tell them, the first question I asked was replied by saying, most of the tank farms were signed by someone in Abuja. When I asked the government of Lagos State, they told me that those tank farms were authorized from Abuja, and they are operating in residential areas. The risks are enormous, and I feel like they are not doing enough CSR for the area as well. So there are many, in fact, they are in their tens now, tank farms inside that town, in the Jebu jetties and all those areas. I know you are very aware of it. So I don't know what, that is my own personal, I owe it to the people behind, at home, for me to say this every time. And then as regards entertainment, I feel like the government should please pay more attention to entertainers and entertainment as well as we want to do to agricultural infrastructure. That's just my own.
I hear you sound sort about satellites, Ijebu, and it's a problem that I think the incident has slowed down, because it was a problem I had to contend with as governor here. Let me say again that whether you get a planning approval to build a tank farm or depot from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, it is still a building of some sort and subject to the urban development and fiscal planning law of the state. And it is the state that must now put its foot down as we try to do there. Of course, we were an opposition government then. Now that we control the center, we are dealing with it internally. I have had cause as minister to write to the Ministry of Petroleum Resources not to issue approvals for tank farms again without requesting the consent of the state government, whether their urban and fiscal planning law allows such things within the area. So that is already in place. But let me assure you that given the plan to develop a new refinery in Lekki, which is almost nearly completed, all of those businesses will have to find something else to do as we go on, and the people of Ijebu will have their peace back. The student from Mokpe, I think it's an important issue that you raised about internship and participation of students at construction sites. It is welcome. It is something we have done back here. Incidentally, Femi Hamzat, the running mate for the Lagos Corporation Gate, was the one who drove that policy when we were here as governor and commissioner for works. We ensured that on our big projects, the Lagos Light Rail, the Lekki Link Bridge, and most of those big engineering projects that we did, students of LASU were always involved, students of Unilag were involved, because it was a laboratory for them to learn things. So, as we settle down, so this is clearly a next level opportunity. And you can earn it with your PVC. Well, the argument about local governments and local government autonomy. Now, I don't want to, I find it strange that the Constitution provides, as I recall, that local government shall be run on the basis of elected officials. Once you are elected, what autonomy are you asking for? I don't get it.
Because when I see that debate, we want local government autonomy. My local governments were autonomous when I was here. So what local government, in any event, the same process for electing local government, the same process for electing a state government. Not so? Okay. When the people who seize our local government funds, they are the same people who are now saying they want to restructure. What was local government creation about? Was it not restructuring? To bring service closer to you? And they say no, they won't agree. They now come, they say come and vote for us, we will restructure. They oppose restructuring. They seize our money. But you know what we did? We went to court. Let the local government chairman, if he's deserving to be in that office, take the governor who stands in his way to court. That is what is okay. Go and look at GABFEST2 report. The local governments, I think in Kano and Kaduna, many years in the Second Republic, they took their state governors to court for interfering with their work, and they won. So, please, the question really is, do you have clarity about your rights as a local government chairman? Why do we accept that in one state they will not hold local government elections, and we the citizens accept that? That is a violation of the Constitution. Compare that elections should be held. But the more important point I want to make, is that local governments are essentially autonomous as intended by the Constitution. The only major interface they have is in certain laws that can be made by the State House of Assembly as to how certain things are done by them, and also provision in the Constitution as to how certain funds from the Federation account are remitted to them through state joint local government account. But I don't think that in any way takes away. It may provide grounds for encouragement, but any local government chairman what is sought should be able to seek legal relief and get on with his work. But that local government issue then also takes us to the point where everybody expects that when anything is wrong in the country, it is President Buhari. The truth is that there are 3 levels of government. The responsibility of the federal government for roads, for example, is limited to roads that connect states, not roads that pass inside your city. So those are not our roads. And the government that has more roads are actually the local government. They own about 60% of the combined network of roads in the country. And we should ensure that they do more about them. Let me, from local government, move quickly to tourism. Let me say, first of all, in answer to the question, what is the federal government doing about tourism? Let me say, first of all, that if you read the Constitution, and we must read. You can read it online in digital form. That's not my business. I still like my paperback. I carry my paper around. But we must read. If you read the Constitution, you will see there, I think it's item 65 or item 56, I'm not sure now, of the second schedule. I think it is. That defines the role of the federal government with regard to tourism. And it says it is tourist traffic. As governor, I supported the initiation of a case against the federal government of Nigeria for a declaration that the federal government had no role to set up a tourist undertaking, that this was a matter for the states. And I believe that the Supreme Court agreed with our position and said that the role of the federal government with regards to tourism, as defined in the Constitution, was to manage tourist traffic. That is the issuance of entry permits, visas, control of the border, and so on and so forth. So let us be clear, that is the law in Nigeria today. But going forward, you now say, well, maybe I'm not the right minister to ask about tourism. I am. Strangely enough, tourism is about destinations. If it takes you 2 days to undertake a 30-minute journey, will you go back there? So I'm the minister to ask, because I'm the minister in charge of the roads that get you to the destination. If you reach your tourist destination and there is no energy, are you likely to go there? So I am the minister to ask, because I am the one providing your energy. So the role of government really in terms of tourism is the infrastructure that makes tourism possible. Rail. So you can, once Amechi fully operationalizes the Lagos-Ibadan rail, and there's no reason why the people of Abeokuta cannot come here and come and spend the day at Takwa Beach and go back in the evening. And there's no reason why I cannot take my children to go and see Olumo Rock in the way that my grandparents took me there over 40 years ago, knowing that we will come back in one day. And if you want to drive, even though we haven't finished, I am sure now that you will not sleep on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway again. The road is a lot better than where we met it. Now, speaking to Takwa Bay, for example, just 2 weeks ago, we connected Ilashe to the national grid, and I think many of you read about that. Ilashe has been there for centuries, but this is the first time it is connecting across the lagoon to the grid. Once Ilashe is connected, all of the other villages and communities will ultimately get connected up to Takwa Bay, because we'll be using just an 11 kV line to connect and penetrate distribution. So we are already responding, and at the next level, we will reach you. Well, what could I say? I didn't get the name of that young man who said we should talk to all the market women, that is only today and tomorrow that is there. But I just called him the next level, and really he took us there. So really, if you want to make, if you really want to see Arise is going with me to the next level. Taking a look at there. So if you really want to see consolidation of the gains, I think your choice must be made now. I think it must be clear. But it's not just making your choice. You must come out on Saturday to come and vote. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting that we are at this point. But we came from a recession that was foretold. That recession was foretold. That was going to happen. We managed it. We came out of it. We have recorded consistent growth. So the only thing that can happen now is to double the growth that we have. And that is the choice that lies before us on Saturday. So leave the colors alone. Leave the colors alone for now. I can tell you from morning to night, vote APC, vote APC, vote APC. But I know that I am speaking now to rational men and women who, when armed with the facts, know that there is no choice anymore. You can't go back to those 16 years. There are years that you want to leave behind you permanently. You know, how do you want to, you know, in Lagos, yeah, you know what they did? You know what FEMA used to come and do to last year? You want to go back to that? FEMA is now the one repairing your road. That's what they should have been doing, not attacking you. So you want seizure of your local government funds again? When we wanted to do the first independent power plant in Ikorodu, they opposed it to. You see, this is is the place where all of the solutions have evolved. When we say pay taxes, do this, the opposite to when we wanted to borrow money for Lagos's infrastructure, they said no. You remember? Now what do they do later? What is the whole world now doing? Issuing bonds for infrastructure. This is the place where we have always provided the solution. And this is the first time where those solutions are now being implemented at the federal level. In just 3.5 years. You want that to stop? No. Over to you, Elodibo, APC, next level.
My name is Akintunde, viewers of Daily Standard know me as GKP. And I have 3 questions for the Honourable Minister. The first one is the Lagos-Madrid Express Road. That road is an eyesore. And I'm not talking about the portion from Okokomeko, no. I'm talking about the one from the point at Accra to Miami. The second one is the Lagos-Sokoto Express Road. Started from somewhere in Accra and in Sokoto. That road is extremely bad. It's one of the major roads not 30 years ago to ease traffic in that access. And the farmers are complaining seriously. The other road they know. The third one is the Oyo portion of the Lagos-Ibadan-Ilorin Express Road. That road has been not released in the last 3 years. And there seems to be no solution. We thought that by now those areas would have been repaired. But the Oyo portion ends, as well as the one before Akintunde in Oyo, are extremely bad. So, those 3 are key to the development of commerce in the Southwest. And I want to know exactly what are your plans for those fields.
I'm a woman, I'm in the fashion space. I'm a dream tale designer who uses emotions, culture, and background to create fashion art. Now, the fashion industry is really growing very fast. And we really want the government to look into that sector. Now, a lot of things are being imported. Over 70% of our raw materials are being imported. We have lovely kaftans all in the front here, and I know that they are made by African, Nigerian designers. So my question is, what plans does the government have to improve the fashion industry further in Nigeria? And then the second one is, everyone is focused on the front end. Everybody wants to sew. Now, nobody is thinking of bringing manufacturing here, like manufacturing our raw materials. We have high demand for rhinestone application right now, and all our rhinestones are imported, sir. There are so many other things, even down to majority of the threads we use. Please, I don't know, at what point will production of majority of our raw materials be considered locally? Thank you, sir.
I have a comment to make, not really a question. It's on sustainable buildings. I believe that when we explore green buildings and sustainable energy in our country aggressively, in the guise of wind turbines, solar energy, especially for public buildings like hospitals and ports, we will significantly reduce the cost of operation on these government power startups and increase savings, which can be used for treating medical patients and used diverted to other forms. I believe that the Ministry of Power can explore that, and we can see progress in that aspect. Thank you very much.
As regards he has mentioned about renewable energy, which is talking about sustainable power, I just want to ask, what is your office doing as regards the renewable energy sector, which is a key sector in providing a clean, sustainable energy for our country? I just want to thank you.
What are your expectations for today's meeting?
A lot of expectations, from getting to know what's the next big thing for the youth in Nigeria, getting to know how we can actually go about the steps and eventually achieve all these things to ensure that we have an impactful society.
The first question I was about to ask, I've actually been asked that what is the plan of this administration regards renewable energy, because I'm a scientist and I'm a physicist, precise. And secondly, sir, you gave us a building in last night, are we here? You gave us a building in last night, that is the Student Union Arcade. I believe this is a very wonderful opportunity for me to actually put this across to you, sir. And the belief was, because the building was actually not completed at that point in time, and the belief was the immediate administration will actually pick it up and finalize this particular project for us. Sir, this same Union Arcade is still there in Lasso, untouched. What I actually want to put forth now is, we have wonderful engineering students in my institution. You don't need to spend much, sir. Just give a directive to the institution, probably the Lagos State government, to put into action to see how this building can actually be completed. And I have a remark, sir. And this remark goes to the general public. We are students and we are devoid of political coloration. And we are also intellectual as well. We complain that this administration is here to complement whatever they've actually started. But something must actually be known. We compare Nigeria to Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew used 8-10, that is 30 years, to transform Singapore. Secondly, we compare Nigeria to probably Malaysia. Mataya used about 22 years to transform Malaysia. We compare Nigeria to probably Ghana. Jeremy Mata used about 22 years to transform Ghana. And we expect miracles to happen in Nigeria. We are willing to come out to cast our votes for the party that believes in the prosperity of this nation.
Okay, I think that I'm not going to start from there again. Your concern is about opportunities for scholarship, for training, and improvement of your skill set in health and safety, and it's something that we can and we look at. Let me say about the young man who gave that emotive speech that I should just direct that they should finish their case. I wish I could, but I'm no longer the governor of Lagos. But one quick way to ensure that that arcade is finished, and also the school hostels that we planned for last year is finished, is to vote for the Sanwo-Olu and Hamzat ticket. Let me tell you why I say that. Dr. Hamzat was the commissioner for Science and Technology, later commissioner for Works, under whose ministry that arcade was awarded, and who actually designed the hostels. So he will have an abiding interest and clear prior experience about how to complete those projects. Renewable energy. I think that we have used I think that we have used a lot of terms interchangeably. They don't mean the same thing. I know that solar energy is one form of renewable energy, and many of you are clearly familiar with it. Let me say in specific response that my ministry already has plans to ensure that before the end of this year, our 2 buildings are powered by solar. We've already done all of the procurement. We're just waiting for approvals to start. So the building in the powerhouse and the building in Mabushi, hopefully by the end of this year, will be totally run on solar power. But that is not the only place where we are intervening. As I spoke to you about market solutions before, one of those solutions is totally solar-based, the one in Sabongari in Kano. There was another solar-based one in Ondo and also in Ibadan. The one in Ikori also, which was commissioned, I think, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, was entirely solar-based. And the solar footprint is expanding. What we are doing there is to enable businesses to connect to opportunities. So Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is not building solar facilities, but they are connecting people, using data, using service providers to say, come and deliver this project. There's an economy and an opportunity here for you. And we have about 300 locations nationwide where we are still hoping to see more investors. If you want to follow up on those opportunities, go to the website of the Rural Electrification Agency. They are the focal agency for driving our solar. But apart from market, I spoke to you about 9 universities where we were developing independent power plants. 7 of them are solar. And the interesting thing as part of those projects is that the maintenance will be part of the continuous training of the students in the university when we finish. But I started by responding on renewable energy by saying that we were mixing up standards. Nigeria is a leader in renewable energy. Nigeria is a continental and even global leader in renewable energy. And that might sound strange to some of you here. Over 30, 40 years ago, Nigeria saw the opportunity in renewable energy and committed to large-scale renewable energy projects like the Kainji, Jeba, hydro electricity plants. Rural renewable hydropower is renewable energy, so don't miss that. So what is now fanciful that is being sold today is solar as a renewable form of energy. But Nigeria has not been a back player in renewable. We've been a leader on the continent. There are very few countries that have the kind of facilities we have in Jeba, in Kainji, and in Shiro. And we are contemplating an even bigger one that is about 3 times the size, that encapsulates all those 3 together in one place, in Mambila. And we have 6 small hydro dam projects again that we will soon procure. So let's just be clear what those terms mean. What can we do for fashion improvement? I think that's a matter for innovation by entrepreneurs and operators in the business. It only reinforces the point that those who spoke before me about have mentioned, that there are numerous opportunities in the marketplace. So we've heard from somebody in the fashion industry who wants certain raw materials to be produced locally. Is there anybody in the house who is thinking about that and becoming a supplier for that service? Those are jobs. And until we close those gaps consciously by playing in them, other people will take them from us and will become importers and end users and consumers to what we can produce. The way government can help, of course, is to stimulate and support through agencies like the Bank of Industry and other agencies of the sort that enable businesses have access to funding to grow. The Oyo-Ogbomoso road, I think if my understanding is correct, you are talking of the old road. Our plan is to finish the bypass first, which is under construction, and then come back to a full reconstruction of the old Oyo to Ogbomoso road, where we have diverted traffic out of the city. For now, it is tough going, I agree, and over the last 3 years, I have made sure that at least at major interventions, we have provided rehabilitation and remedial work, because that is the route by which the trucks then connect to Ilorin to Jeba. And so it's a heavy axle impact on a road that was built many decades ago. The rail network that is under construction now, starting from Lagos through Abeokuta to Ibadan, all the way to Kano, when it is fully operational for cargo as well, will provide relief, and therefore we will see much better roads. The Lagos-Sokoto road is on our radar, but it needs to be redesigned, it needs to be funded, and it needs to be budgeted for. What is currently being implemented is the Okoko-Maiko to Seme border. We have awarded that. I omitted to mention it when I was talking about the Lagos roads. The contractor is CGC, and if you go there now, I am confident to say that they stopped work, I think, for election duties. So they'll be back next week. They already have a contract to construct all the way to the border. And as you know, the section between Okoko and Eric Moore is under contract by the Lagos State government. That was the first question, which is now the